Good evening. You're watching Plain Speak with me, Poonam Burde, and we're coming to you live from the CNN News 18 primetime studio, presented by Green Lamb Laminates. Is India ready for simultaneous elections? Well, the government pushed forth with the One Nation, One Election bill today. 269 people voted in favour of the motion of the bill being tabled, while 198 members of the Lok Sabha opposed it. Now, the Law Minister is expected to bring in a motion to send the bill to a joint parliamentary committee. He will also outline who those members of that JPC will be. Opposition parties, meanwhile, raised concerns that the bill is essentially against the spirit of the Constitution, against the spirit of federalism, which is the basic structure of what guides our democracy, which is the Constitution. The Law Minister rebutted each and all of those objections, but the session was fiery nonetheless, with the opposition even taking a jibe at the centre that they did not have the two-thirds majority to get the bills passed in the Lok Sabha. So the BJP and the opposition then stuck to their guns over this One Nation, One Poll bill, while the ruling BJP says that simultaneous elections would streamline governance and reduce expenses. Opposition parties argue that it would destroy the federal structure and endanger democracy. The opposition argues that conducting simultaneous elections for Lok Sabha and state assemblies undermines the federal structure. They believe it would limit the autonomy of state governments and could lead to centralization of power. The government asserts that this proposal does not require any amendment to the union, state or concurrent lists of the Constitution. Therefore, the structure of federalism remains intact and the move is merely aimed at greater efficiency. The opposition contends that simultaneous elections would be unconstitutional. The government argues that this proposal does not go against the case of Nanda Bharti judgment, which established the basic structure doctrine in the Constitution itself. The opposition then said that the Lok Sabha does not have the jurisdiction at all to legislate on matters that related to state assemblies, that elections are largely a state matter when it comes to Vidhan Sabhas. The government countered that Parliament indeed has powers to make laws regarding state assemblies under certain provisions, particularly for matters that require uniformity and have national significance. Thus, the Parliament can pass these laws to facilitate simultaneous elections even for state assemblies, is what the central government argued. The opposition then said that this proposal contradicts Article 324 of the Constitution, which deals with the Election Commission of India and its powers to supervise and conduct elections. Remember, Article 324 of the Constitution provides the power of superintendence, direction and control of elections to the Parliament, state legislatures, the Office of the President of India, the Office of the Vice President, and that shall be vested in the Election Commission. The government defended the proposal by pointing to Article 327 of the Constitution that grants the Parliament the power to make these laws that are related to conduct of elections, including that of simultaneous elections. Now, while this proposal offers various benefits, as has been highlighted by the government, it also presents certain complex scenarios that would create significant challenges. That is something that the JPC will also have to look at. What happens if there is a hung assembly? What then? When is the next election held? If there is a no trust vote in the middle of an assembly session, in the middle of a 5-year term, and if that is passed, then what happens next? If the government falls in a certain state, then what happens next? What if there is an anti-defection law that comes into effect because en masse there are MLAs that are seen to be moving to the other side? What then? To that, do we wait for elections to take place until the next general elections happen, or do we conduct elections there in a scenario which is extraordinary for that particular state? What if there's president's rule that's imposed in any of these states? All of these questions will have to be answered by the JPC when they meet the stakeholders. That's the point of the entire exercise. There will be a wide-ranging discussion that takes place, not just with parliamentarians and political stakeholders, but even Election Commission, which is the biggest stakeholder as far as conducting elections in India is concerned. So while we debate and discuss the simultaneous elections proposal, is this about reform, as the centre says, or is this merely about politics?
इस बिल का पुरजोर विरोध करता हूं। This bill needs to be withdrawn immediately.
इसके पक्ष में हाँ कहें।
For the bills which have been moved by the Honourable Minister of Law and Justice absolutely assault the basic structure of the Constitution. ये भारतीय जनता पार्टी के लोग तानाशाही लाने के नित नए रास्ते लाते हैं.
This process, the autonomy of the state legislative assembly is being taken away. That is antivirus. That is the basic structure of the Constitution.
This bill will finish off regional parties. This bill is only brought in to massage the ego of the supreme leader.
जो विचार व्यक्त किए हैं और जो विरोध किया है, इस पर सदन का कोई भी सदस्य अपने विचार रख सकता है। अब कांग्रेस पार्टी में विचार रख सकता है मतलब विरोध ही करना है, मगर विचार व्यक्त कर सकते हैं इसका मतलब होता है पक्ष में भी बोल सकते हैं।
Let's open this up. Guru Prakash Paswan, national spokesperson of the BJP, will be joining us shortly. Ashpreet Kadyal, spokesperson of the Congress. Bhuvan Bhaskar Joshi, national spokesperson of the Samajwadi Party. And Susie Ben Shah, spokesperson of the Shiv Sena Shinde faction, will also be joining us. But let me open up by asking Bhuvan Bhaskar Joshi. We heard Akhilesh Yadav, who said that one nation, one election is like Tanashahi. Why do we see that?
देखिए, ये सरकार तानाशाही के अलावा क्या कर रही है? ये चाहती है कि भारत का जो संघीय ढांचा है उसको नुकसान करा जाए। और जो आप भी जानती हैं, जब हम संविधान को पढ़ते हैं तो उसमें लिखा है हम भारत के लोग। हम मीन्स क्या होता है, एक भावना आती है कि पूरे देश हम लोग उसको एक एकता के सूत्र में देख पाते हैं। और जब एक शब्द आता है तो हम देख पाते हैं कि ये हठधर्मिता को लेकर आता है, अहंकार को लेकर आता है। ये पूरा जो सरकार चल रही है वो हठधर्मिता की सरकार चल रही है, तो इसीलिए वो इस तरह की व्यवस्था को लाने का प्रयास कर रही है। और कहीं ना कहीं जो इनका उद्देश्य हमें दिखाई देता है कि ये हमारे संघीय ढांचे पर भी एक प्रकार का हमला है। और बहुत सारी विसंगतियां हैं कि क्या होगा अगर जहां पर सरकार पूर्ण बहुमत की नहीं आ पाएगी, वहां पर क्या होगा, राष्ट्रपति शासन जहां लग जाएगा वहां पर क्या होगा। बहुत सारी विसंगतियों को लाकर ये विधेयक इसलिए लाया जा रहा है कि जो देश के प्रमुख जो मुद्दे हैं उनसे देश का ध्यान हटाया जा सके। मणिपुर की जो स्थिति है, देश में जिस प्रकार मुस्लिमों पर अत्याचार हो रहे हैं, महंगाई, बेरोजगारी चीख के क्या कर रही है, और भारत
देश का मुद्दा नहीं है कि इलेक्शंस किस प्रकार से होने चाहिए, उन इलेक्शंस पे कितना खर्चा होता है, क्या वो खर्चा बचाया जा सके, उन इलेक्शंस पर कितनी सिक्योरिटी लगती है, अगर वो बचाई जा सके या नहीं जा सके, उसीलिए जेपीसी पे शायद जाएगा ये बिल। बट चर्चा तो होनी चाहिए। आप क्यों कह रहे हैं कि ये देश का मुद्दा नहीं है, देश के बाकी मुद्दे डिस्कस होने चाहिए?
देखिए, ये मुद्दा अगर होता, अगर आज तक माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी मोदी जी मणिपुर नहीं गए हैं, वहां पर हमारी बहन बेटियों के साथ क्या हो रहा है ये पूरे देश को पता है, वर्ल्ड को पता है, विश्व को पता है, भारत को नहीं पता है। आप भी बेटी है, मेरी भी बेटियां हैं। तो मैं आपसे पूछना चाहता हूं आज वहां क्यों नहीं जा रहे हैं? अगर इनको प्रदेश के हितों की इतनी चिंता होती तो माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी वहां जाते, क्योंकि वो चाहते हैं कि आज जो मोदी सरकार है सभी मोर्चों पर फेल हो चुकी है, तो वो चाहती है कि किसी प्रकार इस देश को हम लोग ऐसे मुद्दों में झकझोर दे कि मेन मुद्दों से लोगों का ध्यान आकृष्ट हो जाए। और मैं कहना चाहता हूँ बहुत सारी विसंगतियों पे चर्चा होती थी, और जो माननीय अटल जी के टाइम के जो भारतीय जनता पार्टी थी, जो विपक्ष के लोगों को जो ट्रीटमेंट करती थी, उनसे राय लेने का काम करती थी, उन्हें बैठाती थी, लेकिन आज तो देश तानाशाही के दौर से गुजर रहा है। देश देख पा रहा है किस प्रकार हो रहा है। क्या 150 सांसदों को इसी माननीय मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में ही किस प्रकार हटाया गया एक ही दिन में, देश में देखने का काम करा। तो ये
उसका और वन नेशन वन इलेक्शन का क्या लिंक है भास्कर जोशी जी, मुझे वो समझ नहीं आ रहा। बट लेट मी गेट इन सुजी बेन शाह एज वेल। सुजी बेन शाह, नाउ the argument that is being made by many within the opposition, or actually all of the opposition, is that this is against the federal structure, that the regional parties, regional satraps would be disadvantaged if you have simultaneous elections for the center and for states. You come from a party which would be seen as a regional satrap. Do you feel you would be disadvantaged if you were not with the BJP?
Good evening to all. You see, it's always a pleasure to be on your show, and thanks for inviting me. I'll tell you this, these people, the opposition, the Maha Indi Gadbandhan, for whatever it is remaining, are taking the voters for granted. You see, our Indian voters make informed decision. They know whom and for what they are voting. If you see the recent example of Nanded in Maharashtra, you see the Lok Sabha victory in Nanded went to the Congress party, but the entire Nanded the remaining entire district voted for the BJP. So they know exactly what they are voting. Similarly, there are examples after examples. If you see in Andhra Pradesh, the government form was of the BJP, I think in 2014. But resounding victory came for the local government. I think it was VSR. तो इसीलिए while we are talking about federalism is a ghost they're trying to kill, because you can never kill a ghost, and yet they are not understanding that the amount of saving which will cost, which will be saved, number one. Number two, there will be 5 clear months for governance. सबका साथ, सबका विकास, सबका विश्वास और सबका प्रयास एक ही तरफ होगा, नेशन बिल्डिंग टुवर्ड्स विकसित भारत. I don't understand how and why, which they have not been able to explain. There will be any cost to the federal structure. The federal structure is recognized by the NDA and specially recognized by the Honorable Prime Minister, that it will not be harmed. In fact, it will be strengthened. I don't understand. They have not been able to come up with any explanation as to why, save and accept, talking about points which are not at all relevant to this topic. अब दूसरी बात करनी चाहिए भैया, दूसरी बात किया आपने महाराष्ट्र में देखा what happened. So therefore, do not take the voters for granted. They know what, why, how they will vote. For assembly, there are different reasons that they vote, and for the Lok Sabha, they will vote for different reasons. So let us.
So then the voter is mature, or Arshpreet Kadyal, does the Congress and the opposition believe that the voter isn't? That if you give them too much of choice at the same time, with 2 elections happening at the same time, then the voter is not mature enough to decide that one is good at one level and the other may be good at the other level, so I'll make that informed choice.
Well, see, number one, we need to understand why the Bharatiya Janata Party is trying to do this. The Bharatiya Janata Party wants the Prime Minister to continue being the prime campaigner and less of a Prime Minister, because for the last 10 years, the BJP has not been able to do anything because of this, because Mr. Modi was always busy campaigning, 24/7 campaign mode. That's the first reason. Number two, the Bharatiya Janata Party has attacked through this on the constitution, or they have attacked on the federal structure, they have attacked on the basic structure of the constitution, on the regional parties, and the Bharatiya Janata Party has also tried to take away the right of the people, which is to vote, the feedback giving. The Bharatiya Janata Party does not want to take the feedback of the people, because the people, through their vote, let's say the Bharatiya Janata Party has won a Lok Sabha election. If the government isn't doing anything, isn't delivering on their promises in the state, in any state, the upcoming election, wherever it is happening, the people will vote them out. The people will give them a befitting reply through their vote. They want to snatch away that power also from the people. Number three.
But how are they snatching away that power? That's what I'm trying to ask you.
No, how?
Susie Besha, let him finish, please. He didn't interrupt you. Let him finish, please.
So number two. So I'll tell you how. Like I told you, if a Lok Sabha election has happened, and let's say in the next 7-8 months, there was a state election that was to happen in, let's say, Maharashtra, or let's say in Uttar Pradesh, the Bharatiya Janata Party is accustomed to working in the last 5 to 6 months only. अब वो भी नहीं करेंगे. They will not even work for that. And number three, there are certain states where the government has been elected 6 months ago, in some states 3 years ago, in some states 4 years ago. How will you bring all of them to one point? And why should they agree to you? They have been elected by the people of that state. They have been elected fairly and squarely, not through Operation Lotuses. So why should they sacrifice their term for you? Number three, you see, the Bharatiya Janata Party has not been able to tell this thing. They say the cost will be saved, 4,500 crores. What of the Election Commission of India's estimate on VVPATs, on EVMs, which is around 10,000 crores every 15 years? The Bharatiya Janata Party hasn't uttered a word on that. And next is, the Bharatiya Janata Party does not have an answer as to what will happen if there's a hung assembly, if the government is fallen, if there's a no confidence vote, will that state remain governmentless? Will they have no government, no ministers, no one to look after them? We have all seen what happened in Jammu and Kashmir. We've all seen what's been happening in the state. So the Bharatiya Janata Party is only doing this to cater to their whims and fancies. so that they can make the most out of the limited time that they are left with. And that's why this is being done, so that Mr. Modi could give more time being the Prime Minister, less to being the prime campaigner. That is it.
And if to take your argument at that, then isn't that a good thing? If he is the Prime Minister for far longer than the prime campaigner,
Well,
wouldn't that be in the interest of the country as well? But Guru
Well,
Prakash Paswan, let me,
but the
Guru
cost
Prakash,
is very big.
sure, I was just taking your argument,
Just taking
your argument forward. But Guru Prakash
No, but the
Paswan,
cost is
as
too
far
big.
as
The
far
cost-benefit
as
analysis is too bad. The cost is too big, like I told you.
Sure.
Attack on regional parties, attack on constitution, attack on federal structure, attack on basic structure. The 7-8 issues that I talked of, all of them will
Sure,
suffer.
but you also
The people
spoke
are
of
not
how
able
there
to
was no
impact.
stakeholders that were being taken into consideration, but there were at least 21,000 responses that this committee looked into, that was headed by the former president of this country. If the bill is
Not
now,
even
which in all
0.01%.
likelihood will go to the JPC, there will
Not even
be
1%.
discussions that will be held by this JPC as well, which will include parliamentarians of the opposition rank. If even
Less
then
than
you
1%.
believe that there is going to be not enough discussion, then perhaps the opposition, including the Congress party, has no faith in how democratic systems in this country work at all, Guru Prakash Paswan. Is that what it is? Because my question was very simple. Do you think the voters are not mature enough to decide between two different parties, two different issues for two different elections? Guru Prakash Paswan.
No, see, we have to understand a couple of things first. Taking a cue from the argument given by my friend from the Congress party. So, according to his argument, the first Prime Minister of our country, Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru, was not a Prime Minister but a prime campaigner when there were simultaneous elections happening from 1950 to 1967. Point number one. If you listen to the arguments from the opposition, which has no logic, which has no base, which has no solid foundation, there was dictatorship, there was no federal structure from 1950 to 1967. Oh my God, we have to understand, we have to take the note of this, that this country is used to the idea of one nation, one election. This country has seen it in the past. Had Mr. Nehru not dismissed the democratically elected government of Kerala, one nation, one election or simultaneous election would have continued. Point number one. Point number two, we have to understand that out of 47 political parties, 32 political parties have supported the idea of simultaneous election. Political parties are platform or vehicles that represent the sentiments of the public. Point number three, out of 22,000 respondents, 80% of them have said that simultaneous election is an idea whose time has come. Now coming to your question, when you say that the collective wisdom of the people, you don't have faith in the collective wisdom of the people. 2014, simultaneous election happened in Orissa and to the parliament. The people of Orissa are smart enough, I salute to their wisdom, that they elected BJD government in Orissa and send a member of parliament to the Bharatiya Janata Party. What is wrong with the wisdom of the people in Orissa? 2019. Similar, we saw that in Andhra Pradesh and in Odisha, there were different governments at the state level and at the central level. So this argument is completely beyond my imagination. It has no logical or constitutional foundation.
One question.
Point number four, the Ramnath Kovind-led committee has approached all the political parties, has approached all the relevant stakeholders. I'll give you an example. I am a university teacher. I work with the University of Patna as a professor of law. I am being asked to go and work as an agent during the Panchayat election. 3 months down, I have been asked to go as an agent into the assembly election. 3 months down, I have been asked to go as to work for the Lok Sabha election. As a government employee, we have seen thousands and lakhs of government employees going to different elections all the time. Look at the forces. The armed forces are being diverted from crucial and the critical areas. They are being shifted, they are being diverted. How is it not serving the purpose? I don't understand. This is beyond my comprehension. And also, my friend said 45,000 crore. The committee has suggested, there are various studies that suggest that about 4.5 lakh crore rupees would be saved. When you say that one nation, one election is an attack on federalism, but you are not able to give any argument against it. When you say that, you question the collective wisdom of our people. आप लोगों के सामूहिक विवेक पे प्रश्न चिन्ह खड़ा करते हैं. This is not acceptable. You need to have faith in the democratic spirit. You need to have. I did not speak when you were speaking, sir. I'm sorry. I did not speak in.
Okay, let him finish. I'll give you your time, Ashpreet. I'll give you your time. Let him finish, please.
I can interrupt. I can interrupt when you were speaking, but I did not, because that's not the sanskar of my party. Thank you so much.
Great.
So when you question, when you say that it is an attack on federal, when you say it is an attack on federal structure, when you say it's an attack on basic structure, it does not make any sense. The attack on basic structure, the attack on constitution happened in 1959, when for the first time, it was an example, because for the first time in the history of world politics, there was a democratically elected communist party. There was a democratically elected communist party government in Kerala, but you dismissed it. What was an attack on constitution was the emergency. The attack on constitution was the involuntary nasbandi of lakhs
so there
of
is
people
precedent then. So there is precedent then. Similar simultaneous elections have been held even in the past, like Guru Prakash Paswan has been pointing out. Arshpreet Karyal, yes, you can ask your question to Mr. Paswan, but there has been precedent in this particular country as far as simultaneous elections go. Were you saying back then too they were an assault on the constitution?
See, number one, I have a very specific question before coming to the questions of the government. The questions of the opposition are more important in a democracy.
Sure.
My question is, and the people really want to know this, let's say a state government has been elected 1 year ago. Why should they adjust according to you, go into election again? What of that expenditure? Number one. Number two, and why should the vote of the people be undermined? The people have voted that state government. Why should they go into election right now, right again? Number two, he should answer that. And second, the question at second is that the state government, let's say, has fallen after 2 years or after 3 years of simultaneous elections. What will happen there? Please answer. Will that state stay without the government for the next 3 years? Will that state continue to be without government, without chief minister, without ministers for 2 years, for 3 years? There is no answer to that, because the Bharatiya Janata Party has clearly not thought it out. They have shoved it down the throats
Mr.
of
Paswan,
people.
then is there not enough thought that has been given into this? Well, the JPC perhaps will look at all these questions, but before the bill was brought in, before the bill was drafted, were these questions answered by the central government? Mr. Paswan?
The committee report is 18,000. The committee report is 18,000 pages long. It categorically speaks about amendment to Article 83, which is the duration of Parliament, the amendment to Article 124, which is the duration of Parliament. Nothing will be done without the consent of the respective state government. All the relevant stakeholders shall be consulted. I don't believe this misinformation campaign being led by my friends from the opposition party, the Ram Nath Kovind committee. And I say it again, out of what I did not speak when you were speaking, sir. Thank you so much. Out of 47 political parties, 32 political parties, I say it again, non-NDA political parties as well, have supported the idea of one nation, one election. The vote of no confidence motion, there will be a vote of confidence motion as well. I sincerely urge you that please go and read the report. It speaks of categorical constitutional amendments. Are you saying that amendments are against the spirit of constitution? Are you saying that amendments are against the spirit of federalism? GST happened, two-thirds of these states supported the amendment of the goods and services tax. It happened. One nation, one tax can happen. One nation, one ration card can happen.
Sure.
One nation, one Aadhaar card can happen. One nation, one election can happen as well. No one. Like I said, and I say it again, every state government will be consulted. All the relevant stakeholders will be consulted.
Sure, and that's the point of, and that's the whole point of sending this to the JPC. The Prime Minister was also of the opinion that the bill needs to go to the JPC. There has to be consensus that's built across all political party lines, across all stakeholders involved. But Bhuvan Joshi, you had your hand up, you had a point to make. Go ahead.
देखिए, जिस प्रदेश में चुनाव आयोग एक साथ 4 राज्यों के चुनाव नहीं करा पाता हो और हाथ खड़ा कर देता हो, और आप ये देखिए कि कई राज्यों में तो एक चरण में चुनाव नहीं हो पाते, उस देश में इस तरह की व्यवस्था कितनी सफल हो पाएगी, ये प्रश्न चिन्ह लगा हुआ है। चुनाव आयोग ने अभी कहा है 4 राज्यों में चुनाव एक साथ कराने थे, उन्होंने हाथ झाड़ दिया, पल्ला झाड़ दिया। उन्होंने कहा नहीं, हम चुनाव आयोग ने कहा कि हम चुनाव कराने में सक्षम नहीं है एक साथ, और कई राज्यों में कई चरणों में चुनाव होता है। ये इस देश की व्यवस्था है, लेकिन निश्चित तौर पे तानाशाही का दौर है।
चरणों में चुनाव होना इज नॉट अ प्रॉब्लम व्हिच कैन हैपन इवन इफ देयर आर साइमल्टेनियस इलेक्शंस।
व्हाट आई से, मैंने पहले क्या कहा, मैंने कहा कि 4 राज्यों में चुनाव कराने थे और चुनाव आयोग ने हाथ खड़े कर दिए कि हम चुनाव आयोग ने कहा कि हम 4 राज्यों में एक साथ चुनाव नहीं कर सकते। तो कैसे पॉसिबल है? मैडम
जी कहिए, जोशी जी कहिए।
तो कैसे संभव है कि कि आप जब 4 राज्यों में चुनाव नहीं करा सकते एक साथ तो पूरे देश में करा देंगे? ये क्वेश्चन मार्क तो चुनाव आयोग ने लगाया। और पूरे
Guru Prakash Paswan, 30 seconds for your rebuttal before I wrap this up.
नहीं, देखिए भुवन जी, आप वरिष्ठ हैं। बहुत सारी चीजें पहले असंभव थी। चंद्रमा के दक्षिणी गोलार्ध पे पहुंचना भी असंभव था। पहले भी कोविड जैसी बीमारी से निपटना असंभव था। पोलियो का वैक्सीन लाने में आप लोगों ने 30-40 साल लगा दिए थे। तो बहुत सारी चीजें जो पहले असंभव थी अब संभव हो रहा है। और आप लगातार चुनाव आयोग की क्षमता पे 1952 से लेकर के 1967 तक यही चुनाव आयोग था। यही चुनाव आयोग पूरे देश में एक चुनाव यहाँ पे होता था। तो बार बार चुनाव आयोग के विवेक पे प्रश्न चिन्ह खड़ा करना यह उचित नहीं है। संविधान संगत होगा, जो भी निर्णय लिया जाएगा सबके सहमति के बाद लिया जाएगा, संविधान संगत होगा और न्याय संगत होगा। अभी भी 47 पॉलिटिकल पार्टी है देश में। पॉलिटिकल पार्टी ही देशवासियों के सेंटिमेंट्स का प्रतिनिधित्व करती हैं। वो 47 में से सर जब 32 पॉलिटिकल पार्टी इस आइडिया के सपोर्ट में होती है, चुनाव आयोग इसका एक मैकेनिज्म तैयार करता है। 22,000 लोग अपने सुझाव देते हैं, उसमें से 80% लोग इसके पक्ष में होते हैं। 107वां लॉ कमीशन का रिपोर्ट होता है। EM सुदर्शन नचियप्पन जो कांग्रेस के सांसद होते हैं वो अपना रिपोर्ट देते हैं। पहले भी लॉ कमीशन ने ऐसा कहा हुआ है, तमाम पार्लियामेंट्री और लेजिस्लेटिव कमिटीज ने ऐसा कहा हुआ है। 4.5 लाख करोड़ रुपए की बचत होती है। आर्म्ड फोर्सेस की मेहनत में कमी होती है, सरकारी कर्मचारियों की मेहनत में कमी होती है।
Get those suggestions, objections on board. The Kovind panel did that. The JPC will do that. The Parliament will discuss it as well if and when the bill is tabled. But Suzy Ben Shah, you had a point to make.
Quickly, just what to add to what my friend from BJP, Mr. Paswan, said, that earlier it has been recommended by the Law Commission, the Niti Aayog. There have been reports, detailed report as to how they want to do it. The problem with the Congress party is they don't want to debate. They have no reasons. They have no valid suggestions. And therefore, they are just whipping up frenzies, spreading false rumors. Why don't you, in the same spirit, participate in the GPC? Back up your arguments by substantial, by concrete examples. But that is not to happen. Let me assure you.
But we do hope that happens because that's the entire point of having a healthy democracy. Objections need to be raised if there are legitimate and if they can be backed with proof, and solutions need to be found. That's how a healthy democracy functions. I have to leave it there. I thank